Hello everyone. I'm just testing if you can hear me okay. Please let me know. Let me know, please. So, I'm just going to talk about the plan of today's tutorial. So firstly, let me introduce myself. If we haven't met, I'm Rita Gold and I'm a professional illustrator and a watercolor artist. And recently I discovered my love for teaching. So I will be doing these tutorials time by time and they will be performed live. And what we're going to do today we're going to paint together a butterfly using watercolor, and you can download the line drawing after if you're going to do it later, or you can just watch how's it going right now. So I'm doing this tutorial just to showcase and just to tell you about my teaching style, and if you like my teaching style, consider joining me on Patreon, where I upload new watercolor tutorials weekly. Also, you can subscribe to my YouTube channel and get updates on new videos and tutorials. So also, I'm going to showcase some of my artworks with butterflies and reference books that I'm using for butterflies, and how you can prepare yourself to make a painting with butterflies. So let's dive in. So I already transferred my painting on my good quality paper, so I'm going to be using Arches 300 GSM cold press paper. I've also have my paint set next to me, and I'm using Winsor & Newton, and also I have my palette with me. So this is just a normal ceramic dish, and it's quite flat, so as you can see it's very handy. Tissue paper and just a little bit of paper, paper to test paints. And I also said 3 different brushes, but mainly it's going to be brushes of several sizes. So you can use number 8 or 6, then a little bit smaller will be number 3 or 4. And then for the smallest brush strokes, we're going to be using sizes either 2 zeros or even less. So I'm going to talk through about what we're going to use. So let's start. So in the beginning, every time I start with my painting, I actually printed out this time this butterfly. So I make my reference picture in black and white just to identify all the tonal values that I have. And for this butterfly, I can see straight away at least 3 or 4 different tonal values. So these are going to be the darkest one. You see this. Then these are the lightest one. And then that's like a half tone. And there's another half tone. So we're gonna make it a little bit simpler. So I would say at least 4 different tones we have for this painting. So what we're gonna do, I also printed out my reference picture just to show you how we're gonna do it. This time we're not gonna paint everything in one go, because it will actually save us more time. So we're gonna paint wings separately. So first it's gonna be upper wings, and then wings that are underneath. And as you can see on these wings, we have gradients of different colors. So today I'm going to show you how to use how to paint multicolored gradients, and this butterfly is a great example just to show you how to do it with watercolor. And that's why we're going to do this separately. So upper wings first, and then underneath wings. So let's start with underneath wings. So I'm just going to place my reference picture somewhere away. You can also during this live stream can ask me questions and I will try to answer them, and let me know what countries you're from, and just say hello, and yeah, you're very welcome, and I'm happy to have you all with me tonight. So let's start. So I have my painting, my paper attached to the board with masking tape, and I'm using Arches 300 GSM. You can't really see the image at the moment, so with my eraser I'm just gonna remove some of the excess graphite marks, just a little bit. And then what we're gonna do, we're gonna start painting with underneath wings. So I'm using my brush size number 8. You can use probably 6. I know that I sent in the description under this video that you have an information that you can use different size of the brushes. So we're gonna start this painting with a bigger brush, and the approach that I use a bigger brush to start my first layer, and then I am gonna be using less and less size, and then the concentration of color of pigment will be more and it will be less water. But first layer we're gonna use a lot of water because it's gonna be very watered down layer. So we're gonna start. So for this layer, for this wing, I'm looking at my reference picture and I'm seeing, so here if we are using this as a traditional way of painting with watercolor, where you start with lighter tones, so we're gonna think that we're gonna paint underneath this layer. So, and what I'm seeing from this side, it looks like it's more greeny, and here is more yellowy. So we're gonna make this gradient first, so it will be our first layer, and we're gonna do 2 wings. So, and for this I'm going to be using Prussian blue, and I'm just going to show you on my palette. So this is Prussian blue. Then I'm washing my brush, and then I am getting a little bit of lemon hue or lemon pale, whatever you have, and see, and then I mixed it, and then with a little bit more water I'm just trying to make it less concentrated, but it has more water. So this is gonna be the color to start from our right wing, so left side, and the gradient will be from the left side to the right side, and this is all for the right wing, underneath wing. And then, as we know, here is a lot more yellowy, so I'm gonna be using just a little bit more of yellow pale. Huh? Okay. Hello? Can you let me know, please? Can you hear me okay? It's just my husband came and he said that the audio is not very good. Can you please let me know? Hello? Oh, okay, thank you so much, because yeah, I didn't. Let me just. So, hello, I'm from San Diego, USA. Are you using cold press, rough or hot press? I'm using cold press. I can hear you. Sounds good enough for me. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you so much. That's what I needed to check. So we're coming back to our painting. So I said that we're going to be using a little bit of Prussian blue and a little bit of yellow pale or lemon yellow hue, whatever you have on hand. And then for this side, I am going to be using just a bit more of yellow pale. So we're going to grab, so I'm using and I'm starting with my brush size number 8, but you can use slightly less size. So you can use size 6 because it's actually a little bit more difficult because the size for the line drawing is in A5 size, but it should be okay. So I'm using this really watered down mixture, and I'm also gonna have a little bit more water, and we're gonna start from the left side and a bit more water, and we're gonna cover all the area of the wing just like this, and then add more water, and we are stretching it to the right side. And as we going to the right side, I am grabbing a little bit more of yellow hue, and I'm just going to be placing this underneath this wing like this, and then I'm washing my brush, and then I'm just making it smooth, so blending it with this green color. And as you can see, it's very watered down, and I'm making all the paint to go to the edges. I also wanted to mention that depending on where you are, if your paint dries out too quickly, because I'm actually sitting next to the radiator at this moment, and it's a little bit drying out too fast, so I have to adjust a little bit. But if your paper gonna dry out too quickly, just use just a little bit more water on top. So as you can see, so I just added just a little bit more yellow on the right hand side of that wing. Yeah, so we have now a gradient. I'm just going to show you because it's like this. So we're gonna have just a stretch from here to here. Hello from Minnesota. Thank you. Hello. Hello, Wendy. Hello, Vanessa. Hello, Cheryl. Moa. Oh, hiya. Also, I forgot to put on my live stream, I'm just going to put and leave here link to my Patreon. If you ever consider joining me on Patreon and having more tutorials there. Okay, so we're gonna do the same with the other wing, yeah? So we're gonna start and we're gonna use the same brush and the same color combination you see on my palette. So I use Prussian blue with just a little bit of yellow hue. And we're gonna start here, but here will be from right to the left, the stretch. So just look at your reference picture. So we're gonna start from the right side of left wing, and as you can see, I'm just starting and I done it wet on dry, and then I'm washing my brush, I'm drying my brush, and then I am just with the application of water just stretching this gradient to the left, and then just a bit more here, and I am going with my brush this way, and then I am Mixing just a little bit, you see that I have a little puddle of yellow color. So I am just mixing this yellow color a little bit to my green puddle, and then I'm starting here to add just a little bit more of yellow color. Oh, I'm going too far. Like this. And then with just water, I'm moving this color towards all the edges, and then I am scooping a little bit more of just yellow hue, and then I am placing it just right under the wing, like this, under the wing. While it's still wet, I can add just a little bit more of this yellow color just underneath the wing, and it will grow like this. And then I washed my brush, I dried it against the tissue, and then if I don't like how these two colors are blending together, I can always adjust it with my brush. So I'm just collecting some excess paint and moving it towards the body of the butterfly. See, it's looking much better now. And I probably try to adjust it for the right wing as well, just with my brush, just a little bit, merging these two together. So we created our first gradient, yeah, and then at the same time, I'm also seeing that in the places here and here, it has more of the bluer color. So we're gonna use just a little bit of blue hue. So here I'm just demonstrating you blue hue. And we're going to place it just next to that pointy bit here while it's still wet, and it's going to grow just a little bit and give us a little bit more of the color, blue color. And at the same time, we can move a little bit here because it's like a ribbon going on that wing, like just a bit. And I'm still using my brush size number 6, and the same we're gonna do for this wing. So I'm just placing this blue hue just with the tip of my brush. I'm just dabbing it like this. And also we have some areas where it's just blue hue, and they were on a line drawing as well. So I'm just placing that really light blue color, just a little bit. So we're sort of mapping down where everything is going to be. And then if I didn't like how that blue grew, I wash in my brush, drying it against the tissue, and then I'm just removing the blue a little bit to the side. And here the same, I'm just removing it when it's gone too far, like this. Yeah. Okay, I'm just gonna turn my palette, and we're gonna start with upper wing. So this one is drying up too quickly. I don't know. I probably try to pre-mix colors first here, so it will take a bit more time. So we've done our down wings, and we're gonna proceed and paint upper wings. So when I look at my upper wings, what colors do I see? So I definitely see, so as we're starting with lighter tones, and we're going to be building up layers after. So we're going to start with the lightest one. So which one are the lightest ones? So it's probably here are the lightest tones on the upper wing. So I can see yellow, I can see orange. So we're gonna try to create a gradient using these colors. So on my palette, I'm gonna be pre-mixing a little bit of cadmium yellow. Let's see how they mix together. Then I'm washing my brush, and then I'm gonna use a little bit of cadmium orange. Mix them together. Oh, that's a nice color. And then I'm just gonna start with just cadmium yellow, because again there is a gradient going from this side to this side, and from this side to this side, and this side is more yellowy, and it's changing to more orangey color as we're going from the body of the butterfly. Right, so let's just use a little bit of cadmium yellow on its own, and I'm using still my brush size number 8, but you can use brush size number 6. And this is a concentration, and you can see how much water there is. It's not super watery, but it's quite transparent. So we're gonna start with left upper wing right now. So I'm gonna be just placing, oh, I had too much water. So I'm gonna be placing this color on my left wing like that. Then I'm washing it, and I'm just gonna be blending it all the way, including moving towards this area, but I'm leaving a little line in between these two wings, just in case if it didn't go too dry. If your wing on down wing is still quite wet, I'm just leaving the gap between, so all these colors won't merge together. So I'm just using a bit more of the yellow color, just cadmium yellow, and I'm leaving the line in between. Then I'm washing my brush, and I'm just, with application of water, I'm trying to make the whole wing wet. Don't make puddles, it's just a glazing effect. So it also depends on the watercolor paper that you're working with, and the conditions. So how hot is it in your room? Are you sitting next to the radiator? So you need to adjust all these settings for yourself. And like I said, ask me questions if you have anything to ask. So at the moment, I just covered the whole left wing with the water, and here was just a bit more of cadmium yellow, because as we said that there is a lot more cadmium yellow here, and as we're gonna go to the left, it becomes orangey. So for the orangey color, I've used cadmium yellow mixed with cadmium orange, and I'm using my brush size number 8, and I'm just going to place that cadmium orange here. Also remember that there's going to be like dots here, so we're going to cover all this area. So here is our most orangey colors, so just gonna add cadmium orange here. As you can see, it's growing because it's quite wet, and then I'm just, with my clean brush, I'm just pulling the color little bit towards yellow color, and then I'm just trying to merge it together like this. We don't need to pull this orange color all the way here. Just make sure that paint goes to the edges of the butterfly, like here, like so, like this. And just bear in mind that those dots on some areas of the butterfly are still quite orangey. So I'm using just cadmium orange, and I'm just dabbing it here cadmium orange, like this. And we're going to leave it for just a little bit, and we're going to move to this wing, to the right upper wing, and we're going to start here. So again, I'm using just cadmium yellow to start with, and I'm gonna just place that color like so. Then I wash my brush, dry a little bit, and then just with application of water, I'm just blending it, and then I'm just using water just to wet the rest of the wing. Again, don't use too much water. Glazing effect, nothing more than glazing. Okay. Like this, and then I'm going to be using cadmium orange mixed with cadmium yellow, and I'm just going to be adding it. Yeah, it's quite bright, like this. Then I'm washing my brush, drying against the tissue, and then I'm just trying to merge it with my previous layer so it won't have hard borders. And then I feel like I want to add a bit more of cadmium yellow here. Like so. And then adding a little bit more of cadmium yellow as well on the left wing. Like this. If it's drying out too quickly, just use some water to blend it and just to make it a little bit damper. Like that. Like this. Oops. While it's these two wings, upper wings are wet, I also see on my reference picture that top of my butterfly looks like really red or orangey red, so I instantly see burnt sienna. So we're gonna use burnt sienna or light red if you have. If you don't have burnt, well, probably you will have burnt sienna, but if not, you can use light red mixed with cadmium orange, something like that. Yeah, so I'm still using my brush size number 8, and I'm gonna be pre-mixing burnt sienna. As you can see, I'm running out of burnt sienna, as I absolutely love burnt sienna. So I'm just turning my palette so you can see the concentration. So this is sienna. So it's very orangey color. And if we look on our reference picture, the top of our wings are also have this color. So I'm just going to apply just to the top with the tip of my brush. Again, you don't need to spread it a lot, so just the top side of the wing. Then I'm washing my brush, I'm drying it against the tissue, and then I'm making it smooth. If it's not going well, I do it again. I'm washing my brush and I'm doing it again. And then I'm using the tissue. So I'm using the tissue. Just pull the color. And I feel like I want to use just a bit more of burnt sienna towards the body. So like this. Adding some more. And I'm washing my brush, getting more of that burnt sienna, but I just want to use a little bit less water this time. And then I'm just going to turn my painting away from me a little bit because it will be more convenient for me to paint. So, and then I'm starting from the right hand side of my left wing, and I'm just painting it that way to the left. And the most orangey will be here towards the body. And then I'm washing my brush, drying it against the tissue, and then I'm blending it together, the previous layer. And then if I don't like how it looks, I'm just use a bit more of lifting the pigment technique, and I'm just collecting with my clean brush all the excess water and all the excess paint, like this. While it's still wet. And actually we can make the body as well. So I'm moving to the body with my burnt sienna. I'm just going to cover it with burnt sienna at this point. And then I'm just a little bit going to be using cadmium orange just to paint this bit. And I'm washing my brush again. If you feel like it's too big for you to use the brush, you can always use a slightly smaller brush, whatever's more comfortable for you. So I'm just going to be painting with this color. So on top I used cadmium orange, and as we're going down is more of burnt sienna, like this. So our first layer is almost complete. Now I'm thinking of making a gradient from top of the body to the bottom of the body, and I'm going to be thinking of using a bit more colder colors here. So I'm going to start mixing for this color. I'm thinking of Payne's Grey. Again, it's going to be very watered down, so don't rush. So look at my palette. So I'm using Payne's Grey and then a little bit of blue hue. So let's mix it together. Probably... No, actually, Prussian blue looks better with Payne's Grey. So Prussian blue with Payne's Grey, just to get this color. And I'm going to wash my brush, and then I'm going to scoop a little bit of this color, and I'm going to start from the bottom. Because I know that this is starting wet on dry, and I'm just going to be placing it on the body of my butterfly, just like this, from the left side, like this. And I'm washing my brush because remember, it's going to be very weak layer. And then I'm just going to use just water and my brush to cover the area, like this. And I'm just moving color from one side to another side. And as we're going down, I'm just merging it together with my brush, with my orangey color, like this. Almost using just water. Just water. Going up. And then we're going to have a little bit more of the Payne's Grey mixed with Prussian blue. We're going to place it on the right side of the body just to add more volume to the body, like this. And I'm just going to change my brush to size number 1 or 2, and using the same color combination, Prussian blue and Payne's Grey, and with the tip of my brush, we're going to paint as well the antennas on butterfly. So I'm using my brush and I'm just going to very gently paint antennas. It's quite tricky because it's hard sometimes when you make mistakes. So just make sure that you don't have a lot of water on your brush. I'll tell you how. For example, I don't know if you see it. So when the water collects on this side, you see here. Oh, that's the water. So if you feel sometimes that you're not sure, once you have color, you just put it next to the tissue just a little bit, so it's gonna touch the tissue. So all the excess water will go down the tissue. So let's paint the second antenna. I'm using the same Prussian blue mixed with Payne's grey. And with the tip of my brush, I'm just outlining the top of the antenna, and then I'm moving down just with one line. Try not to breathe, make mistake, like this. How we all doing? And then I'm gonna premix a little bit more of Payne's grey and Prussian blue, just to get a little bit more concentrated mixture. And while our antennas are still wet, I'm just gonna, oh, see, it's drying out too quickly. So the antenna that I've just painted, I'm just using a bit more color to add this on to the top of the antenna, and it will create a nice blend. And here, when it already went dry in my case, so I'm just gonna place some color, then I'm washing my brush, drying it against the tissue, and then just blending it together just with water. And as you can see, there is like a gradient going from here and down to the body. Okay. And we might paint first layer of the eye. So the same color combinations we're going to be using for the eye is just cover it with Payne's grey and Prussian blue. But as you can see, it's like hardly noticeable. It's very, very weak. It's just to map out where our eye is going to be and just to see what's what. Okay. Just checking my wings. And next thing that we're gonna do, we're gonna left these upper wings to dry a bit more because we started them later than the down wings. So we're gonna come back to our down wings and paint another layer. So for this layer, when I'm looking at my reference picture, I'm going to be using for mixing colors a slightly bigger brush. So I'm using size number 8, and I'm just turning my palette. Actually, I'm going to remove some of the colors so it will be easier for me to demonstrate you. Like so. So I'm going to be using... So when I look at my reference picture, what do I see? I see dirty grayish bluish colors here, and I see more bluer color here. So let's create this color combination. So I'm thinking a little bit of Prussian blue, then a little bit of Payne's grey, and just a little bit of probably get too much. It just a little bit of emerald green, just to get this color like this. Can you see it? I think it's quite right for this wing. So what I used, Prussian blue, Payne's grey and emerald, 3 colors together. So with the application of different brushes and color, I use the principle of 3 brushes and 3 different tones. So first layer, we paint with a bigger brush and more water. Second layer, I'm using slightly smaller brush, and I use a smaller amount of water compared to the first layer. So we're going to be using for the second layer brush that is slightly smaller. So in my case, I will be using brush size number 4. You can use brush size number 3, or yeah, 3 or 4 will do. And as you can see here, I've premixed color combination that is there is a lot less water in it compared to the first layer. So I'm just going to move my painting like this so I can see. Okay, just a sec. Clearing the space. So what we're going to do, we also see that on the area of these both wings, the area that closer to the body, it has more gray in it. So we're going to start from the right hand side on the right wing first. So I'm going to be using this color combination. I will repeat: Prussian blue mixed with Payne's grey and emerald, and I'm using my brush size number 4. So here we go. Just going to put my reference picture closer so I can see. And I'm just going to start applying my paint just next under the upper wing on the right hand side. I'm just painting the line here like this. Oh, I'm going a little bit too far. Don't forget that there is like a ribbon goes here. So we're gonna start applying. So we apply this bold line here. Then I'm washing my brush and I'm gonna be using just water. And as I'm gonna be painting here, I will be also going over and leaving all these dots. So you can outline them right now actually. With just a little bit of that color, you can outline those bits. And then just with water, you just merge it together and you start pulling the color from that line like this. And then with just water and less water towards the left side, just merging it together. And then I'm going and I'm keeping in mind that there is a ribbon like so. Just gonna use a bit more color here, just a little bit. And then with water, I'm just gonna add some color to the left side of the right wing. So we are still sort of mapping everything on that wing, where everything's gonna go. And as you can see with my brush, I'm just making the gradient a little bit nicer and smoother. And I'm using my brush just to pull the color from this side to this side, just using my brush like so. And then once I know that my this area is equally damp, I can use some more color and add it here. I'm just gonna premix a little bit more. So Prussian blue, emerald, and Payne's grey. But here I'm using a little bit less water, and I'm just gonna be placing it right next to this wing. And in this area where the wing joins the body, it's quite dark. So I'm gonna place more. And then here, just gonna place some more. and round all our dots at the moment because it's quite damp, so all the bleed's gonna grow. See it? Like this. And then I'm swapping to my bigger brush. I'm washing it, and just with a little bit damp and clean brush, I'm just gonna remove a little bit of the paint, just like so, like this. Then I'm going back to my brush size number 4, and I'm again using this color combination, and I'm gonna outline this ribbon here. Like I'm outlining our ribbon because this dark color also situated on the edge of the wing. So you see I outline for myself that ribbon, and I'm also gonna do it from this side. I'm using my brush size number 4. If you feel like you want to use something smaller, you can always do that. And then I'm going down with this paint. And then I'm just gonna fill this area with our combination of 3 colors: Prussian blue, emerald, and Payne's grey. Just gonna premix a little bit more for myself. And I'm just aiding and feeling all the edges on right wing of our wing. Like so. Just needs to premix a bit more. I feel like this will be a bit darker, so I'm using a bit more of the color combination on the right hand side, so to cover that area, so it's darker because it's situated right under the upper wing, so casting shadow like so, just with the tip of my brush, very gently going. Once it become really wet, I'm just dropping some color in the areas where, if you look at our reference picture, you can see that here is a lot darker than here. So I'm making sure that I'm trying to replicate it the same. So it's darker underneath the wing here and just a bit here and here. So let's do it. So let's add more color here. Like so. And possibly here a little bit. And here. Sitting next to the radiator, probably not the best idea, but I'll manage. So you can see that means that it's drying out too quickly. So normally it will bleed a bit more. So what I do, I wash my brush, dry against the tissue, and I'm just trying to blend it together so it won't have hard edges. And here's the same, just trying to create like a nice gradient, no hard edges, everything is smooth, like so. And the same's here. It's drying out too quickly, like this. So we're going to do the same, the other wing too. So I'm going to use my brush size number 4, and again start with our mixture, Prussian blue, emerald and Payne's grey, and I'm starting with the left side of the left wing, and I'm just going to place it underneath the wing. Just be careful about placing your hand on the paint, so just making sure that you don't place your hand there. So just with the tip of my brush, I'm outlining the area underneath the upper wing, like so. And then I'm washing my brush, and then I'm just making it smooth, blending it together, and then keeping in mind that I will have to outline the ribbon and also the dots. So I'm just going to quickly outline the dots that I can't paint using very weak combination of this color, because you're going to cover that color anyway. So, and here I'm just using water just to blend it together with almost whole body of the brush. I'm just like pulling water, and it's like very watered down at this stage, because what I'm also doing, I'm making the whole area equally damp to work further. I'm feeling the area just above that ribbon, and I'm just outlining for myself, so where this ribbon gonna go. I'm looking at my reference picture at the same time, and then just gonna and then I'm premixing just a bit more of that mixture, and I want to go a little bit darker, so I'm premixing Prussian blue, emerald green and Payne's grey with my brush size number 4, and I'm just gonna, while we make this we made this area very wet, and I'm gonna place some more color just right underneath the upper wing. I'm gonna leave it to a little bit bleed, and then where it merges to the body as well. And then while it's wet, I feel like here is a lot darker, and then here, yeah. So we're gonna do the same. So just gonna place color like this, and then also we're gonna outline the ribbon from here. See, I'm just outlining it, and it's quite dark. And then I'm gonna be washing my brush, drying it against the tissue, and just using water and the color that we placed on that line. I'm just gonna be able to cover all this area just using my wet brush, like this. Maybe a bit more water, like so. And then here. I would say that this butterfly is not easy to paint, so give yourself a lot of credit for trying it if you are painting with me, because like I said, it's not the easiest butterfly to paint. So I premixed a bit more of Payne's grey, and I'm adding it again to the darkest points of the wing while this wing is still wet. I'm just placing more concentrated color, so darker color, to the areas where I have more shadowy area. Like this. Yeah. If you feel that you don't like how it's merging together, again, I corrected quite a lot and I like doing it, but some people just don't bother with this. It depends on the style, but I do. So when I don't like this, for me, it's like too much of the growth of the pigment. I'm washing my brush, drying it against the tissue. Just gonna show you. Washing my brush, drying it against the tissue, and then with a almost full body of the brush, I'm just going up, washing my brush because I haven't collected it all, and I'm again going up. A creates a nice highlight. B removes the color and defines the area that you want to see through, because you can actually see our first layer, and as watercolor being translucent, you are helping to see all the layers doing lifting the pigment technique. And also I would like to mention here that lifting the pigment technique works with great with a darker color, so you can't really see this effect if you're using yellows, light oranges. But if you're using like Payne's gray, Prussian blue, or really dark brown colors, and you're doing lifting the pigment, the effects are unbelievable. So I like, you see how it's like shining through. And here as well, I just want to adjust it a little bit like that. So the first touch of the paper with lifting the pigment, I'll just wet this area, and then with a brush, I'm just trying to remove it. But be careful as you're approaching the edge, because sometimes you can cross it and then you can spoil your painting, basically. So like this. So at this point, I'm seeing that my upper wings are now dry. So I am gonna turn my palette and I'm gonna think of what colors I can use to paint my upper wings. So what colors do you see on the upper wings? If you look at your reference picture, ideally to look at your reference picture when you are when you have it on your device. Sometimes when you print it out, you lose a lot of colors, so I always recommend having the image, the reference picture next to yourself, either like in real life or on a device, because you can see colors better when it's not printed out. But I just printed out because last time I was showing it on iPad, you were struggling to see it because of the reflection. So for the upper wings, I actually gonna use one of my favorite colors. This one is from Winsor & Newton, and this is Dioxazine purple. I'm just gonna squeeze a little bit. So if you have purple, I'm just gonna dilute it for you just to show you the color. So I'm seeing this color, but also I see brown color. So I'm gonna be using burnt umber as well. It's a really nice brown color. So I'm just going to be placing here just to show you the colors. Some of the scales on butterfly wings are very uneven. So I would say that when I look at my reference picture, I'm seeing that I would start and add a little bit of blue hue here. And then as I'm going to be going this way, I'm here going to be using a bit more of just purple lake. And going towards here, I will use more of dioxazine purple mixed with burnt umber. But I'll talk you through. So, because we're going to be painting the second layer, I still, and we're going to be covering quite big area, I will advise you to use brush size number 8 or number 6. So we're going to start, as I said, we're going to start with blue hue. I'm just going to get some blue hue. Oh, it's quite dirty here. Blue hue. And it might be just a little bit mixed with Payne's grey because it's not very, it looks like a dirty blue color. So I'm premixing just a little bit of that blue hue with Payne's grey. And I'm gonna start with the right upper wing from the corner where it joins the body. I'm just gonna place a little bit of this color. And I'm leaving just a tiny line in between because I know that it might be a little bit damp, and so I don't want the layers to merge together. And then I'm just washing my brush, and it's wet, and I'm just blending it together. You can see I'm pulling the color down like so. And then I'm gonna be I actually gone a little bit too far. So when we're going to apply this color, we have to keep in mind that we have dots on this side, and we also, we have dots. So, and the ribbon. So there is a ribbon here underneath and the dots. So I usually help myself with outlining those lines so I know what I can cross. As you can see here, I already did it, so I crossed it, but never mind. I will be careful. So for this time, just use water and let's apply and stretch this slightly blue color here. A little bit like this. And then just with water, I'm using and going this way. As I'm approaching, what colors do we see close to those lines? So we're going to premix a little bit of this purple with burnt umber, and it's a good time to swap to our smaller brush because it actually will be easier for us to do the outlines. And again, you don't need to do very dark outlines, so I'm just watering down my color combination, and I'm going to be just making a map where everything is, and you actually can make them slightly bigger than the actual size. So I can't go any further here because I already make it wet. And then I'm outlining the ribbon. So ribbon goes like this, and then we have like some spots here, so I'm outlining them too. Some of them have slightly like V shape, no V shape, heart shape. And then once we have like 4 they started to merge. So let's do this. So I outlined for myself where everything's gonna go, so which will give me a lot of freedom to work. So I'm swapping back to my brush size number 8, and I am pre-mixing on my palette this Dioxazine purple with burnt amber. I'm gonna turn my painting slightly this way so it will be more comfortable for me to work. And we're gonna start leaving slight gap. So I'm gonna start here. And I'm placing it. And I'm going towards those spots. And then I'm premixing more of that Dioxazine. Just dropping it here. Like this. And then I'm going round all my spots. Going round. Then I'm washing my brush. And I'm just merging together all my layers here. Going down to the ribbon. And then let's do the edge. Just with the tip of my brush. Right, this. I'm a little bit leaving of that burnt sienna layer. And I'm just covering the rest. And I'm just, as you can see, I'm just moving that color towards the edge of my wing. Like so. And then if I don't like how it's merging, I can always fix it with a brush. And here I just use water just to merge it. See? So this is my one area. Oh, actually, here I haven't done it. So I'm going around all the spots on the upper wing, right wing. Like this. And I'm gonna leave the rest of them because I can add these details later. So I also see that on the upper wings, apart from these colors, I can see blue colors. So I'm just gonna try using Prussian blue mixed with Payne's grey. And this color combination actually is a lot darker. So I'm just gonna play about and see where it takes me. So I pre-mixed Payne's grey and Prussian blue. As you can see, it's very dark. So I'm gonna place it just right in the middle while my wing is still quite wet, but I'm also leaving the gap here, so I'm not gonna go any further here because here I know that my paint will spread a bit more and I don't want this orange color to be covered, so I'm moving towards to the right. And then I am also just dropping this quite concentrated color on my right side of the wing, just around some of the spots, because if you look closer, we do have these colors there. And as you can see, it creates a really nice color combination in between those colors. Again, you can see that this is not ideal shape, and I can fix it. So I'm washing my brush, drying against the tissue, and then I can slightly transform it. Yeah, make it nicer. So I'm just lifting the pigment, and at the same time I'm correcting and spreading the color, and then cleaning my brush, going this way. And then at the same time I feel like I want to add more purple and more brown. So I'm pre-mixing. I'm gonna turn my palette towards you. So I'm pre-mixing Dioxazine purple mixed with a little bit of burnt amber, and I'm just placing it next to here. It's quite concentrated. I'm loving the colors so far, and we are placing them just in some areas. And we're also gonna add this color combination of Payne's Grren Prussian blue here while it's still damp, and I'm covering this line because I know it's dry now. So, and then I'm washing my brush, drying against the tissue, and then I'm just merging it together, and then with a clean brush, I'm just making it smooth. Again, I'm working with a condition where my radiator is next to me, so I had to work a little bit faster. So just like that. We're gonna move to our different wing, left wing, and we're gonna start with the same color. So we're gonna be using Prussian blue mixed with Payne's Grey. I'm gonna just trying to place the palette so you can see it, because I always thought that it's very important so you'll be able to see the colors concentration. So I'm using Prussian blue with Payne's Grey, and I'm still using my brush size number 8, and we're gonna start from right side of left wing. As we look on the reference picture, it's quite blue, but it's like dirty blue. So once I painted this line, I'm washing my brush and I'm just spreading and merging it together, keeping in mind that we're gonna meet the line, and then we're gonna scoop some of the burnt amber and dioxazine purple, just a little tiny bit, so it's quite watered down, to outline our dots, to map out what we can't cover. You can make them bigger, so just like so. And then also on this side there is some dots. I'm constantly looking at my reference picture. You can count how many pieces of those circles, well, semicircles, are on this side. So I'm seeing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So these, so I can now comfortably, after I outlined it, I can comfortably cover it. So I'm gonna start with using purple dioxazine mixed with a little bit of burnt amber, and I'm gonna be placing it just here round some of the dots. Working with the tip of my brush. Again, if you feel like you're not comfortable with the size, you can always go down. So once I apply this color, I'm washing my brush, and then I'm just using my brush and water, and I'm just pulling this color and merging it together with this blue color. And also going up, just using water to cover the whole wing. And then just with my watery brush, I'm just making all the areas wet, nice and damp, because we're going to be using more colors and they will be working together, so they will create nice bleeds together. So I'm just making sure that I'm going round and watering all of them, just like so. Once I've finished, I know that I want to place a bit more of the purple color here, and I'm applying it quite generously, but keeping in mind that I want to leave a little bit of the orange area here. And then also I can see that that Dioxazine purple is here as well, just a little bit with the control. So you see, with watercolor, it's just understanding how your paper, your time, your water control are working together, so you can get the results that you want. As you can see, it's quite wet, so all the legs from the bleeds are growing very fast. That means that the paper is quite wet, so I don't want it to go that fast. So I'm just with my clean brush moving it, and then washing my brush, and then moving it up again a little bit, and then here as well, just merging it together. At the same time, I want to add just a bit more of burnt sienna just on top. Burnt sienna just here, placing. And while this wing is still wet, is it? No, it's not wet. It's already dry. Oh my god. So I'm just gonna do this like this. You see, I'm correcting this now because it went too dry for my liking. So while it's still wet, I want this mixture of Prussian blue mixed with Payne's grey to get this nice dark, cold blue color. And I'm just generously applying around some of the areas, around those dots. And don't worry if they already dried out. We're gonna use a bit more water to correct it. So I'm going up with my brush, just with tip of my brush. And then I feel like here is a lot of this color as well. Like so. I'm washing my brush. And then I'm just with my brush gonna blend it together with the layers and with the colors that I added previously. Like so. So we won't have hard edges. So I'm just using a little bit of water just to blend it together. Just to blend it together. Again, it dried out too quickly. Maybe in your case, you still have it quite wet. Like so. And then I feel that I want to add just Dioxazine purple on its own, just a bit more. And here as well. This side. And then I'm washing my brush, and you can see this area become too dry. So with my brush, I don't want any hard edges, so I'm making this area wet. You see, I made it wet. And then I'm lifting the pigment, so with the full body of the brush I'm just moving the excess paint and also just correcting it the way I want it to be. So I'm looking at my reference picture roughly and I'm thinking, okay, so here I want a bit cooler blue, so I want to remove a little bit more down like this. And here I don't like how it dried out, so just with a wet brush I am making it look smooth. So all the layers are nice like this. Actually, maybe a little bit more of, let me have a look at Purple Lake on its own. I feel like I want to add a bit more of Purple Lake just here. And here. And then you see it's growing too big, so with my brush I'm just correcting it a little bit. And then actually I'm gonna do this way to the left, and I'm making sure I'm not flipping the paint on through the edge, just like this, and then correcting all the edges as well. Right. So next we're gonna do the body. So for this I'm gonna be using Prussian blue and Payne's grey. So here I have pre-mixed Prussian blue and Payne's grey, and I'm gonna use my brush size number 8, but like I mentioned before, if you feel that it's too big you can always swap to the smaller size. So I'm just gonna outline for myself the segments on the body. It will just help me to understand where all the main parts. So this feels like this upper body, and then also I'm going to separate some of the segments just with the tip of my brush. I'm just outlining where all the segments on the body gonna go, and so they're going to be slightly curved. They don't have to be perfect, and plus as well we are going to be covering them. It's just to understand the anatomy of the butterfly. It just helps. So the tip for you that I'm going to say is that sometimes if you're unsure, use very diluted paint to outline where you're going to put your next layer. It really helps. Well, me especially, I always use it that way. So I'm going to swap to the slightly smaller brush. So I'm using brush size number 1 just to make outlines a bit nicer for the body, like this. So I made a map where everything goes on my butterfly, and then also I'm gonna use the same brush to outline the upper body like this. So just with lines, so I know where everything's gonna go. Like so. And then I see that here is like some darker sides of the hair, sorry, hair. So I'm just still using this Prussian blue mixed with a little bit of Payne's grey just to map parts of the body. And then I'm using my brush size number 8, and I'm using the same color combination. It's Prussian blue mixed with Payne's grey, and I'm gonna create each segment individually. So I'm just gonna place this color on one segment, then I'm gonna miss it and then place it here, and then I'm gonna miss it and place it here. Then I'm gonna wait a little bit, so I'm washing my brush, drying against the tissue, and then I'm just gonna use my wet brush to pull the color and make this area wet, and the same for all the segments. And as you can see, I'm just moving and I'm leaving some of the parts in between. So the reason why I'm doing this, so my segments of the body won't merge together. So I'm working on these segments first, and once they dry, I can move to other segments. And then I'm adding a bit more of Payne's grey and Prussian blue from the other side. Oops, here, like so. So it creates volume. So I'm making colors slightly darker on the left side, on the right side, and highlight in the middle, which creates volume, give you a shape. Just a little bit. And I'm gonna leave it a little bit so everything will dry out, and we're gonna do the rest of them. So, but for time being, we're gonna leave it, and we're gonna paint the rest of our wings. So what we're gonna do now, we're gonna paint we're gonna pre-mix Payne's grey mixed with Prussian blue and emerald green. That's what we used for the base. As you can see, it's quite dark, so I'm just going to move it a little bit so you can see. I don't want to make wings any darker because I quite like the tonal values in between them, and I didn't want to go really dark. However, I see that maybe they're a bit darker on the wings, on the under wings. But what I do in my experience, so I prefer to edit with details. So we're gonna add these details on the wings, and at the same time we're gonna leave all the tonal values as they are on the down wings. So I'm going to be using this color combination to paint and to start on a really darker side of our down wings, making sure that my brush is dry and not dry, sorry, that it's wet and clean. And then we're going to use different grades of different tones of this color combination. So we're going to use darker and more combination in the shady area, and then as we're going to go to the highlight, we're going to use less of the color. So we will create a nice color balance on that wing. So let's start. So I'm using my tiny brush, so it's a brush from Pro Arte, 2000. So I'm just gonna move it a little bit, but I want you to see how I do it. So you see that here in the puddle, I have quite concentrated mixture, but here I want to just add a bit more water, and here will be less of this color. And I'm going to be using, and we can actually start making the brush strokes on the right wing, together, starting from the dark area, just to test, because always start on the dark side, because you won't spoil the highlights. So I'm just gonna place this. Okay, that's fine. I was just testing. And then what I want to achieve, going on highlight. I want brush strokes to be seen, but barely seen, like so. So I'm also replicating the hair, and I'm placing my brush strokes very gently in this area, and then I'm using a bit more color, moving my palette a little bit away, and then I'm getting more of the color, and I'm gonna start on the right hand side. As you can see, it's a lot darker, like this. I'm gonna show you how I do brush strokes just on this piece of paper. So when we have a highlight, let's see that that's our wing. So the highlight is this area and the darker side here. So always start with putting your brush strokes on the darker sides, because you won't spoil it. So I always start on the darker side, and I know that my brush is loaded with paint, and I'm gonna go towards the highlight. And as I'm going with my brush strokes towards highlight, I know the paint wears out on my brush, and I know that I can place it round, 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 and you can see that it's getting lighter. And keeping this in mind, I'm just placing my hardly seen brush strokes on the highlight, which A, gives a lot of details, B, it won't spoil tonal values, because if you will place really dark brush strokes on the highlight, well, it will give more character, but we don't want that effect. We want to save all the tonal values. Okay, so, and I forgot to show you. So the brush strokes, how I do them. Sometimes I don't place them next one to another. Yeah, like this. I like to make them uneven, like this. And sometimes I like to make swirls. So I start with sort of outline, and I know that it will be the darkest color, and then as I go towards the center, I'm making sure that I don't place them like this. So I don't want them to be perfect, so I'm making sure that first round they this way, and then next line they are actually situated sort of next to the gaps, so in the end it will look good. Just wanted to show you how I do it. Okay, so let's go back to our wing. So here I'm started, as you can see, I'm starting on the darker side. I know, because again the watercolor is translucent, so you need to be able to see some of the darker tones, but you don't want them to be really dark. So as I will be going to the highlight, I don't want it to be covered with really dark brush strokes. So I always start with on a shady area, and then testing on the shady areas like this. So I'm moving from one area to another, but they all are quite dark. like this. And then I'm washing my brush, and I'm just gonna use a slightly more diluted color combination, making sure that it doesn't have a lot of water. Whenever you feel that it has a lot of water, you can always press it just a touch to the tissue. You see, it released excess water. So, and then I'm gonna be going to the highlights. Let's paint the highlight like this. Do you guys have any questions? Feel free to ask. And then I'm going to be going to this wing, left wing, and again I'm going to start with placing darker tones of that color to the darker sides, and then I'm just barely, you see that my brush is already wears out of paint as I'm coming towards the highlight. Then I'm starting again, scooping a bit more, and I'm starting with a shady area first. Not shady, just a darker side of the wing. Like so. So you see that I've painted the darker parts first, and then I'm just using slightly less concentrated mixture of the same color, and I'm trying to place them closer to the darker side, and I'm going to the highlight. Some of the hair I'm not placing like directly like this. I'm placing my brushstroke with a slight curve. Just gives a bit more interest. Hiya. Hi there. A bit late for the party, but I could list at watch your answer. Yeah, thank you. Yes, I think in the end I am gonna show you how I use gouache with my butterflies. I also gonna show some of my butterflies that I've done before, and I will try to explain the art of using gouache with watercolor for my butterflies. So let's go, and as you can see I am not starting in the middle of highlights because I know that it's too much paint and water on my brush, and as I go towards the highlight my brush wears out, and I'm placing my brush strokes like this. I don't know if you can see it. Just here on my darker areas, I want to add just a bit more of the color, so I'm placing a bit more concentrated brush strokes, going out a little bit, you see, like this. And then start here. So it's almost like black color here in a shady area underneath the wing. Normally I would paint my butterflies, I would say 4-5 layers, but it depends. Like I don't want them to be really overworked. So I'm just painting dark points on the down wings. And I'm using my tiny brush. Again, you can use a slightly smaller brush, it's how you feel. It also adds a bit more interest and tonal values, and also replicates the hair, so the hair and scales. Sometimes when I have more time, I would also put dots like this. It just gives more interest. Do you only paint, or do you have other creative and other hobbies and as well? Uh, creative hobby. Do you mean what I do apart from painting? Like, um, to be honest, I think it's just having time. I really enjoy painting, and I would love to have time to discover, not discover, but like work more with different mediums. Like, I really love gouache, and I really love oils, and try to I'm honestly love all types of the art, but I love, apart from watercolor, I love gouache. I would love to try pastels and oils, and what else I like? I like papier mâché, and but it's just finding time. I love ceramics, so making your own plates. I would love to try. I had experience making in the art school some of the ceramics, and I really loved it, but it's just finding time and going, and it's hard. What are your creative hobbies? What creative hobbies do you have? Pyrography is basically painting with the heat on wood. Yes, I actually tried it in my childhood. Well, not childhood, but when we had it at my art school as well. I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan. But it's quite interesting effect. Thank you, Wendy. Your explanation are very clear. Thank you. Beautiful butterfly. Love your colorful and dramatic painting. Thank you. Thank you, Wendy, very much. So I've finished with this side. So let's add some details to the area under the ribbon. And I'm using, because this is quite darker, I'm going to use just a bit more color. Oh, wow. Glass engraving. Sounds interesting. Just sounds very complicated to me. I don't know about anyone else, but I do find I do really struggle sometimes with just starting something new. And it can take me years to build it up, to start something new. I don't know why. I'm not so straightforward with things. Like, for example, my husband, he's very talented in many things, and he can easily dive into some subject and discover new areas where I find hard to. Basically, maybe I'm just making lots of excuses, but I need to really build it up to try something new. So yeah, I struggle sometimes with this, but I'm working on it. So I'm placing just some vertical brush strokes on my down wings using my brush, uh, double zero brush. And again, even on this tiny area, we have some darker sides and some slightly lighter sides of the wing. Just gives a lot of details to our painting. So we know that we left those segments to dry out, so it's time to paint the others. So I'm using my brush and I'm going slightly up, so using brush size number 4. By the way, these are brushes I'm using here. It's not an ad, but they are quite good and quite affordable, from Golden Maple. And these are synthetic brush, and I quite like using them. But I'm always swapping to different brushes because I like to experiment, and I always have favorites and then moving on and having other favorites. So for the belly, we're gonna use paint gray mixed with a little bit of Prussian blue. I'm just showing you here. And we're gonna paint shadow area both sides on the areas of on the segments where on the segments on the belly where we left. So once I painted them, you see from both sides, I'm just gonna wash my brush, dry it against the tissue so it's just wet, and I'm just gonna blend it together. Don't use a lot of water on your brush, just so it has to be just wet, just slightly wet. And as you can see, it just creates a nice volume. So there's highlights in the middle and darker sides from both sides, which gives you a sense of shape, volume. And also here, I'm noticing that I'm actually used the wrong mixture because there's emerald green here, because that's why they look a little bit different. But it's okay, we can adjust it a little bit. Glass engraving is a bit like drawing on black paper. You have to put in the highlights instead of the dark lines. It indeed has a learning curve, but it's quite fun to do. Wow, that sounds very interesting. I might Google what it is. Right, so also on this wing, we have a really light line of blue. So I'm just going to be using blue hue to paint this line with my brush number 4, and we're going to place it and I'm going to start it just here. You can see that I'm just painted that blue line. I used blue hue. Again, it doesn't have to be very concentrated. And then I'm moving to the other side. I'm just turning it a little bit so I will feel more comfortable painting the line. Like so. And then at the same time, I'm using this blue hue and I'm adding just so premix a little bit of more of blue hue on my palette here. And I also share another tip with you, but it just works for me, but it might not work for you, but I will share it. So how to make perfect dots. Well, I figured it out that if you have a really new brushes, they actually have a really fine tip, but they are rubbish at making nice round dots. Well, at least for me. So what I found, sometimes I used I'm just gonna look for the different brush. So sometimes I have brushes. So this one is 20, so it's quite thin brush, but it's now good. If you can see, the tip is so it's no good. It has to be very pointy. But if you wash them, so you add water, they actually create a better round dots than a very pointy brush. Let's test it. So I'm using my brush. So it's 20 from ProArte, and I'm using blue hue. And I'm just going to place some of the dots in those boxes. So I feel like for me, having a slightly bigger brush and with a smaller tip is actually creating better dots than a very pointy one. It might be different for you, but for me, it just works best. So I'm placing just a little bit more of the blue dots on my line, just to replicate scales on butterfly wings. And on the left wing as well. Just in some areas like this. Oops. Sorry. Do I have a lot of people who are beginners in watercolor, or you just do it for fun, or this is the area that you never thought you're going to be trying? I'm just curious what experience with watercolor you have, and what would you like to learn more about? Please share with me. So we're going to leave this, oh no, we're going to add a bit more. So I'm using the same, my thin brush, 20. So I'm using combination of colors. So these wings, I've used Payne's Grey, Prussian Blue, and Emerald Green. So I'm going to add some more lines separating the bits of that ribbon. So like this. And then another wing. It's the same. You will be able to see it, these lines, because I made them on my line drawing, so I can see them through. So we defined this area. So let's move up. We're gonna actually paint the body. So for the body, I feel that I want to use more of Payne's Grey and a little bit less of Prussian Blue. And I'm gonna be using my brush size number 4. I'm quite new to watercolor. I used to work with pen and ink very often, so I'm a beginner and I'm a struggle with wet on wet, you mean. And I struggle with big flat washes. With wet on wet, I think, like with watercolor, like everything else, I know that it sounds really obvious, but it all comes with practice, and it's combinations of several things. You need to adjust to the paper that you're working with. And with practice, you will understand that different paper, even if it's like only cold press paper, the time for observation, so where the time when paint and water go in, is different. So if you're struggling wet on wet, maybe try to start with using not cold press but hot press. And the difference is that cold press is actually more absorbent, so you have less time to work with the surface. So with hot press paper, you have more time to adjust all the areas. So just to try hot press, and like I said, try different types of paper, and give yourself time, because it does take time to adjust, to understand. Okay, so I applied paper, I applied paint here. It's taking me this time on this sort of paper, so I need less time to. So you are just learning how to work with time, paper, paint, how long to wait, how absorbent is your paper, and it's just um, big flat washes. You mean when you are working with the big areas? I paint. I paint watercolors for fun, but I would like to improve my skills. I found it a bit difficult to dominate the water flow. You mean, okay, water flow. It's hard. You know, it's hard, and I can see, and it's a shame I don't have on me, and probably for the next tutorial, I will try to find my not first my watercolor paintings, because I have an art school long years ago, and then I had a big break, and I was a designer and working on the computer with digital programs, everything digital. And then finally I felt that I want to go back to traditional media, and I want to do it in a reverse way. So I will paint first, and then I will edit, and then make products, or do all the designs and etc. And what I found with those paintings that when I came back, so it was about 8 or 7 years ago, when I was looking at them, it was a struggle to come back. It's like with languages, if you're not practicing them, you're forgetting. The same with any skills. If you practice them, you are discovering more and more how you can improve your style, how you want to adjust it, and the ways as you practice. So with those paintings that I've done 7 years ago, I noticed that some of my mistakes was like from almost a beginner. So some of my washes were very very rough, and but it disappeared with time and with practice. So give yourself time, and like I said, if you will explain me more about uh, dominate water flow, you mean that you struggle with controlling uncontrollable, or like I think I can only say that it comes with practice, and it comes with understanding what you're trying to achieve, because again there are different types of watercolor. There are like very loose watercolor where you are almost letting all the paint to do all the work, and you are just placing and letting all the bleeds grow, and you are allowing it. In my style, I'm using watercolor, but I'm using it in sort of not 100% traditional way, because I am with how structured it is. It's more about control, but with creating all the bleeds, it's more about letting it paint its own picture. So it's like controlling uncontrollable. I don't know if I explained it right for you, but trust me, it all comes with experience and with practice. Flat washes in general to keep one layer. Mhm. I can only suggest, if you send me some of the examples on my Instagram, and I will. Do you have my Instagram to have a look at some of your works or washes and what you are trying to improve, and I might give you some tips on them. Okay, so coming back to my paint, so sorry, I just wanted to interact with you, and I'm interested in all the people who's with me today. Yes, I mean, water has control, not me. Yeah, so let's come back to our butterfly. So we're gonna paint the upper body. So I said that I'm gonna be using Payne's Grey mostly, and I'm just using just a little bit of that color combination where I had Prussian blue and emerald green and Payne's Grey, but just a little bit. And as you can see, this area quite dark. Yeah, just send me some pictures so I can recommend you something. So I'm using my brush size number 4, and I'm placing quite concentrated color actually here, leaving some of the area untouched because I want this orange color to stay. And I'm only gonna start and paint down. So I'm gonna use you see that I painted this area, and I've used Payne's Grey mainly, and then I'm washing my brush so it's wet, but it's not like dripping wet, and I'm just merging it together. Then I'm washing it again, drying against the tissue, making sure there's nothing, and if there is, like here, just touch the tissue, and then again just merging it together. So we have quite concentrated color on top, and as we go down it's less. And then I'm scooping a bit more of this Payne's Grey, and I'm just adding here underneath. So we have that one segment, and I sort of painted borders from the top and the bottom darker than it's inside, so inside is lighter. And adding some more concentrated color to the right side and to the left. And I'm just leaving it, allowing it to bleed, allowing it to work. And then we are going slightly up. Again, I'm using this Payne's Grey, and just with the tip of my brush, I'm just going to paint the dark hair on the area. So it seems to be that hair is slightly longer in the middle, and then it's going less as we go to the right and to the left. And the same is up where the wings. Just with the tip of my brush, I'm just adding details and just painting the dark hair area like this. And then at the same time, we can use a little bit of burnt umber mixed with this Payne's Grey, and I can still use my brush size number 4 to outline left hand side of my eye, and then outline right hand side of left eye, just like this. Then I'm washing my paint away from my paintbrush, and then I'm drying my paintbrush, and then I'm just blending it together. Then I'm again washing it, going to another eye and blending it. Seems like I had too much water, so I'm just making sure that I'm removing this excess paint. So it's just with my clean brush, I'm moving color down because I want it to be a bit more concentrated. And we're going to leave it just for a little bit, and then we're going to add a bit more color. It's just at this point, if I add paint, it will grow very big, and I don't want that. It's all again understanding about control. Once you just apply water, you know that if you're trying to make a really thin line and you want it to be darker here, you have to wait longer. You have to wait to the time where this area will be actually on a side that is becoming damp. So you know the paint applied from here won't grow too big. That's a principle. And this is about water control as well. So we're going to leave it for a little bit. And we're going to move to these wings. So for these wings, again, I don't want them to be really dark, but at the same time, I want to make them a little bit darker because they seems to be very light. So I'm just going to use, oops, sorry. I have my purple Dioxazine, and also I'm going to add some water to my Prussian blue mixed with Payne's grey. Bit more of the Payne's grey. You can see that the color is very dark. And also I want to use a bit more of burnt amber. I'm going to place it here next to purple Dioxazine purple. Always pronounce it wrong. So I have a dilemma because I quite like the color combination, but I don't think it's dark enough. That's why I want to put another layer. That's what I'm thinking. So I'm going to use a bit more of purple Dioxazine, and then maybe I will add a bit more of purple lake there. Just a little bit. Or you can just use purple Dioxazine on its own. So we're going to cover this area just to give some more depth and just to darken the area. So I'm placing it just like in the middle of the wing first, and the color concentration is more, so it's less water. And then I'm washing my brush and I'm just like blending it together. You can see. And then I'm using my color Prussian blue with Payne's grey, and I'm just adding it as well. So again, I am using some of the Dioxazine purple, and I'm placing it on my wing, and then more of the Payne's grey, and I want to darken that area in particular. So I'm just placing, and with the tip of my brush, I'm painting the top of my wing, like so. Then I'm washing my brush, and I'm getting more of the purple Dioxazine, and I'm again going in between those areas, in between, leaving all the spots out. And as you can see, I want it to be more pointy, so I'm washing my brush, drying against the tissue, and then I'm just moving it a little bit both sides, keeping in mind that I don't want to go over the edge like this. And then let's place a bit more cold. Oh, this is too much, sorry. So I'm using emerald green and a little bit more of Prussian blue just to place here. And then, as you can see, I added a bit more. So I'm just gonna merge it together like so. And then with my clean brush, I'm blending all the layers together like this. And then I want to darken this wing as well. So I'm using Payne's Grey with Prussian blue, and I'm gonna start from this side. And I'm gonna start with left wing, painting the line first. And then I'm washing my brush thoroughly, drying against the tissue, and then moving my brush this way. I was saying don't go to the area, and then I went. So yeah, keep in mind that here should be our burnt sienna. So I'm just gonna place it on top to fix it like this, burnt sienna. And while this wing is still wet, we can add a bit more color. We can add a bit more burnt sienna here as well. Washing my brush, and then I'm just gonna merge together and wet this area using my purple here. Washing my brush, drying against the tissue, and then merging it together. So I have like zones of concentrated color on my wing. And then I'm going with my just clean brush, going round all the spots. I'm working quicker because my paint is drying out too quickly. That's why. Like this. So now all this area is wet. So I'm gonna use more of Prussian blue and a bit of Payne's Grey, and I'm gonna place some more here and some more here. Like I want bluer here and here. Like so. Washing my brush, dry against the tissue, and then I'm just moving the paint to the left hand side. You can see that it's drying out unevenly because, like I said, I'm sitting next to the radiator. So I'm just with my clean brush correcting it and also defining highlights. Again, this area is still wet. You will struggle to do it if it's 100% dry. And here as well, I'm just moving it down, like so. And at the same time, we can separate the bits on upper wings using Payne's Grey mixed with Prussian blue. So I can see that it has lines here, and then it has like small triangles here, like this. And then the same is on here, on the left wing. Do you like the colors so far? I thought it's quite interesting combination. At the same time, while it's still wet, I'm just dropping a bit more of burnt sienna using my brush, size number 6, no 8, like this. And then while this area is drying out, we're gonna quickly add more details to the hair. So I'm using my smaller brush, 20, and I'm just gonna use the color combinations of Payne's Grey mixed with Prussian blue, but I would say that it's more like so don't make it too concentrated. You can see on my palette, so I'm using here, it's actually a little bit of emerald, Payne's Grey and Prussian blue together. Hello, good evening. I couldn't join earlier. Will surely watch the recording. Yes, thank you very much. Yep, you can do, recording will be available. So I'm gonna start with painting some of the hairs on the body. So I'm using my thinner brush. So I'm using 20 from Pro Arte, and I'm just looking at my reference picture and I'm thinking how the hair on the butterfly are going, what are the patterns. So it's kind of crossing in between. So I'm making sure with my brush I'm trying to concentrate and paint on a darker hair like this. And then when I'm going down, I'm painting the line in between the segments like this. And then I'm merging. Then I'm going down and painting over the line between segments. So these are the lines, they're going to be darker than others. So as you can see here in the middle, it will be lighter, or we even will try to use gouache. So I'm placing right now my brush strokes to the right, and to the left, and I even left a little bit, some area in the middle untouched. So I just want to use a bit less color, just like so. And then as I'm going up, I want to add more warmth. So I'm using burnt amber and I'm premixing it with my Prussian blue just to paint some of the hairs on top of the body. And I'm just painting hair in this manner. Again, I'm looking at my reference picture constantly. And I'm placing and I'm thinking where the darker points. Again, it's like sort of here. So I'm using burnt amber mixed with Payne's Grey and a little bit of Prussian blue. Just like this. And then at the same time, I like to add details. So I'm turning my painting and I know that I can work on antennas as well. So I'm making sure that I have a pointy brush and I'm using Pro Arte. That's brush 20. So I'm going to be using just Payne's Grey mixed with a little bit of Prussian blue with Payne's Grey, sorry. And I'm going to be placing vertical lines or horizontal lines. It depends how you have your painting situated next to me. So I like to turn the painting next like in this way, so I can easily make the brush strokes be very gentle. So I'm just going to be placing them that way. They are half dots, half brush strokes. Just be very careful as I'm going to the top of my antennas. They are slightly bigger, so with my brush I'm making sure that it's covering all the area, and then I'm starting with the darker side because I have quite a lot of paint, and I know that the antenna is a little bit lighter towards, so I know that I started on the darker side, and I'm going, and I'm even gonna brush my use some water and has less paint, and my brush strokes here will be lighter, just like so. And then I'm turning my painting again. Still quite dark. So I'm using now a little bit of burnt sienna, and I'm still using my brush, tiny brush, 20. And I'm gonna have, again, if we look on the hair on top of our butterfly, it's quite concentrated in color. I also can add just a little bit of cadmium orange in this mixture. I'm gonna show you like this. So it's this mixture, and I'm gonna place it on this area, on the head of our butterfly. And some of the hair I make bigger than others. I want them to be uneven, just like this. And then moving on to this area. And then I know that here is already a little bit dry, so I'm going to be placing some brush strokes that goes this way, so sort of horizontal way outwards from the body, like this. Again, I like to paint my butterfly, so the wings, so the patterns from the upper wings, they go like this, sideways from the body, and then my down wings going down and then sideways. Just gives a nice balance. So as well, we're gonna add, because I was talking about the line on the eye, and then we completely forgotten. I completely forgotten about it. So let's add a bit more color to our eyes. So I'm just using the line. I used Prussian blue mixed with Payne's grey just to outline my eyes, and then the same mixture. I'm just gonna make a shadow area on antenna, just with the tip of my brush. So I'm making the shade from the right hand side, and the same I'm going to be doing for this antenna, very gently, like this. And then I'm now washing my brush, making sure it doesn't contain any other colors at this point, and then I am just moving my brush a little bit, so it's damp. My brush not wet, so it's almost dry. So, and because I painted that line which contain water, so the colors won't spread too quickly, so I have a control of this area. And then I'm washing my brush and I'm just making it covering the whole area. So what we have, more color on this side, and then as we're going this way it's less, and while it's still wet I'm just gonna drop a little bit of burnt sienna, like this. It's my radiator makes this noise. So, and next step is we're gonna add some more details to the upper wings. So here is the same principle, but I'm gonna be just painting the veins. Can you call them veins? So it's the veins on butterflies. So what I want to do, I want to use Dioxazine purple with a little bit of burnt amber. And oh, sorry, I don't know if you can see the lines, because I actually struggle now after we covered a couple of layers, struggle to see where all the veins. So I'm just gonna guess. So this is a main one, goes this way, and then I'm dropping a bit more color here, and then it's like this way and this way, and then from this vein one is going down, one is going down like this. As you can see, it's still a little bit wet, and you can actually see all the lines, so the veins should go in these areas. Then I'm turning my painting. Again, I'm using Dioxazine purple mixed with a little bit of burnt amber, and I'm gonna add those lines on the left wing. Again, so these lines are actually helping us to understand where they're going. Like this. And then, so with the tip of my brush, I'm making the lines just to give details to our wings. And then I'm turning my painting again, because I want to paint here the area that I missed. It's also a line here, it's just you can't really see it, like this. Okay. I'm using my brush size 20, and I'm just adding this purple color to the eye as well a little bit, placing it on a shady area. Like this. In a real time, I would white 100%, so the area will be dry, so there won't be these accidents. But because I am a little bit speeding up, I didn't white that long, and so these areas grew, so you can see slight bleeds. But normally I would white 100% to add my final details to make them sharp, so I will know that watercolor won't go sideways, it will be very sharp. So, and at the same time, we know that we have different colors here, so we don't want to cover with details all the way through. So we want to use different color combinations to add this detail. So here we can use more of the Prussian blue, here more of the Dioxazine purple, here more of the burnt sienna, here more of the Payne's grey. So this is how I work. So I would pre-make some puddles on my palette, and I already have them, so I swap into the bigger size brush just to make them wet. So here I have Prussian blue, Prussian blue. Then I'm washing my brush. Here I have Payne's grey, washing my brush. Here I'm scooping and I have my burnt sienna, washing my brush. And then also purple dioxazine. Here, just making that I have this color. So this is how I work. So I pre-make 4 different puddles to paint different areas on the wing, because we don't want to cover all the areas in one color. So I'm using my brush size 20, sorry, and I'm gonna start with right wing, and I'm gonna start picking a little bit of Payne's grey, and I'm just gonna place my brush strokes this way. Again, I'm starting on half tones. I'm not on a highlight yet, and I'm placing my brush strokes this way. And then as I'm moving towards the purple, I'm just using a bit more purple, and I'm adding it to the area so it's covering this area but not overpowering this area, if that makes sense. Do you guys like my techniques? Do you understand them? And I would like to hear some more feedback. So here I'm working, and here is all purpley. And then as I'm going towards here, I just want to use a bit more of Payne's grey. Just like this. I'm moving it's this way because it's just more convenient for me to paint this way. So I'm using Payne's grey right now because I'm covering quite a dark area, but I still want to see those brush strokes through, just like so. I like it very much, I understand them, but I don't know if I could do myself in a reference of my own. What do you mean if you, for example, would try it? But this is how you know what? I think it's great that we live in a day and age where people who have different techniques can share their experience, and you can watch and you can try to replicate and learn some of the secrets and some of the ways people paint. And this is how I actually adopted and found my style that I want to do in my way. You watch loads of different people painting, and you are learning as you looking at people and looking what they do, and I think it's amazing practice. And especially when you're learning, it's great to see how others painting and trying to repeat how they paint, because you will understand if you like this technique or not, because sometimes it's not going to work for you, not necessarily. Like I said, you don't have to add all the brush strokes. I'm just showing you how I paint my butterflies 100%, how I would do that. Again, here I would like to add that I don't go for hyperrealism, as I don't like hyperrealism because I just don't want to be a printer. I want to add something with passion, with more colors. I love your paintings and the colors you use. Thank you for sharing it with us. Oh, you're welcome. So I moved to the different wing, yeah, and when I'm looking, I'm seeing, so what's underneath, what color. So here I'm using Payne's grey and a little bit of Prussian blue to go in the area where I have these colors underneath, and here the purpley area, so I'm adding brush strokes with purple color. Again, it's very watered down here because I'm close to the highlights and they are barely seen. Gives a lot of interest. I would actually say here that sometimes when you want to learn something, you need to master how other doing it first, and then you will adopt some of the techniques and you will listen to yourself more in the future, because you have to love what you're creating and the style that you have to love it, because there is nothing worse than having some style and trying to copy somebody if you're just not comfortable working with it. But as I said, it just comes with practice, with painting loads and loads. So I'm using purple again, and it's quite diluted purple right here, almost nothing here. Some of the brush strokes are longer, some of the shorter. I like to make them uneven. We are just replicating scales on butterfly wings. You see it? And then I'm turning again, just to use a bit more purple. But also here I wanted to say that with any art, and there are so many different approaches, and when I am not a person who 100% say don't use this, don't do that, because it might work in your way. For example, um, I am well known on Instagram for generally using mixed media. So I use watercolor, and then I add gouache at the end, which will be mixed media. Again, it's not traditional, and any watercolor artist will say no, you can't use white gouache, but you can. And I mean, it depends what you want to achieve with your artwork. Is it just a hobby, or do you want to develop your style? Do you want to express yourself fully? You have to ask yourself all these questions when you are making an art career, and you want to stand out but also don't betray yourself and use like the styles that you don't love deep inside. So it has to be going all together in yourself, and you have to feel that it's right. When I started, I actually had the style where I would use a lot of different details, but I would use pen. I probably tried to reshare some of my early artworks. So I love working in the style called Zintagle. If I'm pronouncing it wrong, let me know. Uh, Basically, it's like loads and loads of thin lines. Um, I'll try to show on my Instagram some of the artworks that I produced. But here, you know, with watercolor that I'm working, I still love adding details the most. And so because I just find it so therapeutic and relaxes me a lot. And I just love doing it. So I'm trying to define veins now, so I'm using a bit more of the concentrated color, and I'm again don't paint the whole vein with one color. I'm just adding just a bit color on the vein, not everywhere. It just creates a nice balance, and you know your eyes traveling through. So yeah, if you are starting with watercolor, I would say, and I think everyone will say the same, it's just a lot of practice till you understand what you lean in towards, because you can develop love to, for example, paint loosely and make patterns, or you can try illustrations for the book, or you can try to, you know, or you will start loving making landscapes and traditional watercolor. You never know. Boo. Do you add Zintagli sometimes to your watercolor butterflies? That would be an interesting combination. Yeah, I might do. I might do. It's just I don't know. I'm trying to work with one medium, but at the same time, I love combination of using pens as well. Yeah, I might try it. Might try it. So, uh, we are gonna have probably another 20 minutes maximum on this tutorial. So what we're gonna add, I feel like I want to add more color to the dots and make them a little bit more yellowy orangey, and I want to show you how I use gouache. Yeah, sounds good. Sounds good to me. So I'm getting a slightly bigger brush, size number 8. It's just because it will be easier for me to premix more concentrated color. I'm just going to move my painting and show you the palette. So I'm using just cadmium orange here. And with my brush, size number 8, I'm just going to no, I'm actually gonna use smaller brush. I'm just gonna use size number 4. 4, 3. So I'm using my brush and I'm using just cadmium orange, and I'm just gonna place and make dots randomly in the areas where we have those spots, those yellowish spots on the butterfly. And sometimes if you look, it's like these spots like around, and then inside is more yellowish. So just adding details here. Honestly, on these details I can spend a lot of time. So I'm just placing some orange dots, and I would probably make those dots in 2 layers. I would probably start with yellow first and try to create 1 layer here. But because I'm running out of time a little bit, I have to just use orange just to give more color. But I would paint it in 2 layers. Yellow first and then orange on top. You can use orange here, or you can use a little bit of burnt sienna, but I feel like cadmium orange does the job. So I'm slightly dabbing, and so I'm trying to recreate the scales like this, and then moving here to the right wing, dabbing, dabbing. You know, a long time ago, I'm just replying to you. I have too much things I do and I want to try. I don't know. I have a style. You know, for a long time, I thought that I didn't have a time. I didn't have a style, but now I feel like I do, and it only comes with loads of time spent on it. Because as you paint more, you develop the way you paint, and it becomes your style. Because, for example, um, if you trying to define my style, it would be that I like to add loads of details. I like to use watercolor in a slightly non-traditional way. Um, I'd like to use mixed media, so I'm using gouache for my painting as well, which makes, and also the subject that I'm painting, mostly butterflies, moths combining with florals, which is like your area, your theme, and this is how you are developing your style. So pick something that you like to paint a lot, like with passion and for free, and see where it takes you, and try to experiment and try to use different mediums to combine, or different styles that you can use. And just like I said, it's not it doesn't happen in one day. Like your style, it takes years. For some people it takes years. Oh, hello, Anne. I wasn't sure to is it okay to call you apple nose? Nice to meet you, by the way. So, and the last thing that I want to show you, so I would do this in several layers, and I would add more yellow. As you can see, that on my gradient here, there's more yellow. So I would start with pale yellow and build it up here, and then only after I would put this orange and even burnt sienna. That's how I would do if I had more time. But for now, I'm going to show you how I use mixed media with my gouache. So I'm just going to remove some of the paint from here so you can see. I'm just using damp damp tissue to remove some of the paint, and then making it drier so you can see. I'll move it here. So what I use, generally I'm just using white gouache from Winsor & Newton. We don't need a lot, so it's just a little bit. So first I'm gonna add just a little bit of water to this one puddle, just a little bit. Again, with my technique, how I add details, if you add too much water, it's gonna create mess. So make sure that you have nice water control. So when you are placing your brush in a jar, make sure that there is no water. So you basically just do this. You're removing all the excess water, so nothing will be dripping in that puddle. So I want this area to be almost like really light gray, so I just need a little bit. So I even gonna use different brush to get this Payne's gray. So I'm using brush size number 1 to get some Payne's gray, and I'm placing it, let's say, here. But I don't need it to be concentrated that much, so I'm just gonna dip a little bit here, and I'm mixing this color. Again, it's barely any water, but then I'm just with the tip of my brush, and you can see how dark my water is. You can see just a little bit up, maybe a bit more. It's just because it's drying out too quickly. So I will probably say the secret is to have a very limited water when you're mixing gouache with watercolors. Every time I paint hair on my butterflies, I understand that if it will be too much water, it can ruin the painting, because when you have too much water, the watercolor, the layers underneath, can start flowing under the gouache. So and of course, you will use gouache at the very last point. So for this, I'm going to start using brush size number 4, but very tip of my brush. As you can see, that I'm just going to... No, it's actually too big. I'm going to use brush size 20. I don't know if you can see it. So I'm creating this puddle, making sure that it's a little bit gray, but again, see, water. So I'm removing this water and just making the tip pointy. Again, you can try on a piece of paper. You probably won't see it, but first brush strokes you do is very watery, but then it goes down. So let's add these brush strokes. Oh, there's hair sticking out. And with the very tip of my brush, I'm just painting the hair. Some of them shorter, some of them longer. And then when I go to the belly, I'm making sure that I'm looking at my reference picture, and I'm just looking how the hair is growing and which way they're going. So they're here, they're crossing each other like this. Then I just use a little bit of more water. Bit more, probably I'm just going to use a bit more of Prussian blue. So it's almost like working with dry gouache, and I know that it won't spoil the layers underneath. And good things about this, that you can start actually layering a couple of different layers. So I start with a darker gouache plus watercolor, and then on top I will place some more lighter tones. Like here, you see that I'm using Prussian blue mixed with white gouache, and it's slightly darker. I even want to have it a little bit more darker, so I'm pre-mixing a bit more of Payne's grey, adding some Prussian blue here in this mixture, testing it a little bit, like this. And then I'm going down. So on this stage, I'll probably spend the most. can't really work with white gouache. I have somehow the pigment looks like it was separated from the binder. Can I use... Is Dr. Martin's bleed-proof white? Is this like a brand? I never heard of it. Sorry. I would say you will need a good quality white gouache. So it's not any white gouache, because sometimes it just doesn't work well. So here I'm just premixing more of white gouache and just a little bit of that Payne's grey. Oh, not Payne's grey, sorry. A little bit of Prussian blue. A little bit using it here on the palette to try, and then as I'm going, you see it's covering, and also it creates a nice color balance with previous hair. So you can see this is a second layer of my gouache, and you can see that it's almost look like a gouache paints in here, but I just love adding these details. It's just a little bit like this. And there we are. So I would spend probably another hour on this painting just to add my final details, but I felt like I showed you a lot on this painting, and I hope you enjoyed watching it. And here I'm reminding everyone that if you want to have more in-depth tutorials and learn more, I have a Patreon where you can become my student and learn more of watercolor, and you're welcome to share your artwork. Also, you can tag me on Instagram and reshare this tutorial, and yeah, just show me your results, or have it, you can always contact me and ask for some tips, and I really hope that you enjoyed it. Yes, sometimes it's just I don't. I will try to finish it. Let's say tomorrow, and I will reshare my final result. But also, I like to keep it more realistic in the way that what you can achieve in 3 hours. So I'll probably do a couple of pictures before and then what I would normally spend. But again, on my butterflies, I would spend probably 3 to 5 hours. You see that here I was adding some gouache at the end as well. Just gives a lot of interest. Just quickly showing it, and here and here. So it's basically just white gouache always with a little bit of watercolor. My butterflies. Here I used a lot of white gouache. And here. So yeah, thank you very much for everyone who joined me, and I'll see you next time. Bye.